Today I'm going to talk to you about a somewhat disturbing but very real topic: taking pleasure in someone else's misfortune. Most people don't openly say this. In fact, they don't even want to admit it to themselves. But sometimes when we hear someone's bad news, a small relief passes through us. That feeling opens the door to this topic. Let me say this clearly from the start. Taking pleasure in someone else's misfortune is often not about being bad, but about internal deficiency and dissatisfaction. This situation has a counterpart in psychology, a German word, Schadenfreude. That is, taking inner pleasure from the bad situation someone else experiences. So why does a person do this? First reason, self-comparison. The human mind constantly makes comparisons, and sometimes when someone falls, we feel better about ourselves. Because at that moment our brain says, so I'm not alone. So I'm not the only failure. So there are those in worse condition than me. This is a very primitive defense mechanism. Instead of facing their own unhappiness, the person clings to someone else's unhappiness. Second reason, internally accumulated anger. Sometimes jealousy, resentment, even hatred accumulates towards someone. But we can't express it, because it would be shameful, look bad, make us feel guilty. Then when something negative happens to that person, a voice inside us says, good, they deserved it. Let's see what they do now. I told you so. This pleasure is not actually joy, it's the release of suppressed anger inside. Third reason, feeling of powerlessness. People who feel powerless and weak see someone else's fall as a kind of balance. Because there is no control in their life, they don't feel adequate. But when someone else loses, their own loss hurts a little less. So actually, this pleasure is not happiness, it's a bandage applied to pain. Fourth reason, lack of empathy. Some people genuinely cannot feel or understand someone else's pain. This doesn't always mean narcissist. Sometimes people who grow up in an environment where emotions were suppressed, raised without love, accustomed to pain, can lose empathy over time. And without empathy, conscience also weakens. Then someone else's pain comes like news. It comes like entertainment. But there's a very critical point here. Taking pleasure in someone else's misfortune is something that rots a person from the inside. Because the more a person feeds on someone else's fall, the more darkness grows in their own inner world. And after a while this happens. The person can never tolerate others being better than them. They become uncomfortable when they see success. They get angry when they see happiness. Because their inner world is not ready for this. That's why when this feeling arises, what needs to be done is this: to honestly ask yourself, what deficiency am I experiencing? Why do I feel this? What emptiness is inside me? Because most of the time the problem is not the other person. The problem is the dissatisfaction within us, the incompleteness, and the unhealed, unfinished emotions. And let me also say this: sometimes feeling this emotion is human. But constantly experiencing this, feeding on others' pain, becomes a character issue and is very dangerous. My clear statement on this topic is this: if someone else's unhappiness makes you happy, you are not already happy. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video for more psychology content.